Hello? Linda, can you hear me? Hello, everyone. Just be patient as we try and work out how this all works, as we've never used it before.
Hi. Hi, Tara.
Hi. There you are.
Yeah, we're already getting some freezing.
Yeah, we're all set to go.
When you talk, it flicks back and forth, but what I'll do is I'll put me on mute, and then it will just it'll just record, it'll just have you there, so it stops the flicking back and forth. But yeah, everyone else sees whoever's in the screen.
Okay, it's a bit of a delay at times. There we go. Okay, it's a bit of a delay at times. That's better. Can you hear us now?
Yeah. What
That's
did you do?
there. There we go. I don't know.
I want to invite Karen as well. I've just got to remember where to invite her. Invite people, there we go. Okay. It is.
I'm just closing a few things off so that our computer runs a bit.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea, eh? Yeah.
Oh, that seems a bit better.
So much to learn, eh? So much to learn. There we go. Okay, we'll just put this in here.
Book. Is that easier?
Sorry?
Yeah. If we disappear, I'll message you on Facebook. Just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Who knows? Somewhere into the ether.
Now the thing is, oh no, there are some more viewers joining us, but we can see, the thing is that we can only have 10 on here, but we can have as many as we want watching the YouTube clip, which is 30 seconds delayed from this.
Right.
And the people that are watching the YouTube clip can ask questions using the question and answer button, and that'll show up on our screen. Do you have a question and answer button on yours?
Okay. We missed that.
Blue. Oh, do you have a question and answer? Yeah, you got it turned on?
Yeah.
Okay, so people that are watching can ask questions, and then we can just repeat them and answer them at the right time. So yeah. Welcome everybody. Well, we're going to have a go at doing this on Google Hangouts, and hopefully you can hear us. Oh, hi Karen.
Hi.
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 It's working.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we've got 6 viewers. So we'll just give people a little bit more time to join and work it out. So if you're watching this, you can ask questions just by using the Q&A tab, and it'll show up on our screen, and then we can answer them for you. So just bear with us, because this is something that we haven't used before, so we're just all trying to get used to it as well. If you're having problems, you could always message me on Facebook, and I can try and sort them out for you.
Nice to see you, Dana.
How can you see her?
Oh, well, she's put a question up, so we know it's her.
Oh, okay, cool. That's
We've
awesome.
been liaising over the last week, so it's lovely to
Okay.
see her in here.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
So that's in the
Awesome.
Q&A, Tara. Can you see that?
Oh, hang on. Oh, yeah. Just like to say hello to you all. We chat often, but nice to see you in person. Yeah, it is, hey? Clicking the select button shows the audience which questions you are answering and bookmarks it in the video for later. Oh, that's cool, hey? Oh, yeah. How's your new job, Dana? Been thinking of you? How's your internet today, Kieran?
Good, but I'm just wondering if you can hear background noise at my house. I might have to shut the door.
Not majorly. Not majorly. Well, do you think we should get going? Yeah? Well, welcome everybody. So I'm Tara O'Neill, and I'm teaching at Te Karaka Area School at the moment. And this is our third webinar that we're doing, and the first time that we're using the Hangouts. Tonight we've got Linda here from Longworth Forest, and Sarah Iono, who is a researcher and a RTLB, and they're coming to join us as well. And we've also got Karen Davis with us, who is a researcher in Christchurch. So yeah, we're looking forward to having a good chat tonight. Remember, if you want to ask a question, just use the Q&A tab on your screen, type it in, and then we watch it come up. And so we will answer them as we can. So yeah, Linda, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, Linda, you there? Can you hear me? Or have you frozen? There you are.
Our internet is freezing a little bit, so bear with us.
Okay, would you like me to start, Tara?
Please.
Well, I thought maybe hopefully people will be
Oh dear, it looks like the internet is freezing, isn't it? Bother.
is perhaps transmitted onto other areas. For example, making enclosures for soft toys, or making enclosures for insects or different animals. How does that look with linking it to the curriculum document? So science, buildings have certain requirements, especially when enclosures are built for those living things. For example, frogs or anything the children might find outside. Of course, technology, the technological practice. And when we look at level 1, we imagine that this is to be a written plan. But at this level, the plans are discussed and thought about. And I think that's a tricky one for teachers to get around with 5- and 6-year-olds. The curriculum document is quite wordy with technology, and really, I think the wording is with 6-year-olds. So I think their planning in their heads. And we would be thinking about planning and designing down, or children who are exploring enclosure and making tents and making huts. All this planning goes on in their heads, the trial and error that's involved. And we just need to interpret that technology document a little bit creatively, I think, at times. Did you want to say something on the technology, Sarah?
I'm actually, when I went through Teachers College, I majored in the new technology curriculum and was a technology teacher for a while. So I understand sort of the philosophy behind technology. And what they're wanting to do is having children understand the design process and starting out with an idea, coming up with some concepts, trialing them out, refining and so on. And that, for me, when I was applying that, was at an intermediate level. If we take that back down to look at some of the foundation skills for children, this is what we're going to see in their play, is the very basic skills of, I've had an idea, I want to try it, it may or may not work, and if they're able to, at the end of a time where they've had some experimentation with that, they can turn around and say, well, I thought this would work, but I had to change it to this, and then it worked better. They're engaging with the design process, and that's what we need to interpret as level 1 teachers of the curriculum.
I think it becomes very obvious when teachers have that time to observe and watch what the children are actually doing when they're building these tents and enclosures. And I know in the forest, when they're getting their planks of wood and their old curtains and things like that, they start making their enclosure in one way, and they realise that the shape of it or the measurements are not right for the curtain they've got, so they start all the process in technology. So we have to scale it right back to what it looks like for 5- and 6-year-olds. I think the maths as well comes through with enclosure, because we're talking about position and orientation, transformation, and also sequencing of their ideas. You know, what is going to come first if we're making an enclosure, and how does that look? So all those things, the sequencing especially, helps, of course, with literacy as well. If we were asking them to eventually organise their ideas into writing a story, they've got to have lots of practice with sequencing ideas. So I think that enclosure urge is very, very important to lay those foundations for later on for the technology, science, also for social studies. Social sciences, if children are working in groups to complete the task, then they're understanding how belonging in groups is important to people, and by all collaborating with their ideas, coming up with a product at the end. So it covers a huge range in the curriculum. It's just making ourselves, I think, a little bit more au fait with what they're asking in the curriculum document. Another one that I thought we might look at is water play. It's very interesting that if you go and look into the science document, and under the nature of science, which always bamboozled me when I was a teacher, and it was one of those ones that I sort of skimmed over. But really, the nature of science, it specifically says that children will investigate science ideas through play. And so this is exactly what they're doing when they're playing with, for example, with water. So we can link it absolutely straight to the nature of science. Of course, it will come in with the physical world as well, and also, of course, with moving water, we come into the physical inquiry and physical concepts, the physics involved in using water to move objects, and also using water as an ingredient, and how the changes occur when other ingredients are added. Again, the technology, of course, with using water to move objects and eventually understanding the power of water and how to make water wheels, electricity. So once again, these are all the foundations for that later learning. And maths, of course, when water play, is great for capacity. Great for getting outside and filling up those containers and teaching the children, working alongside them, and getting some of those level 1 ideas over about capacity.
It's certainly something that just a teacher I'm working with at the moment has said she's noticed the language of maths coming through in play quite authentically, and that's something she's observing and commenting on in her coaching role, is really starting to see the vocabulary coming through in a very natural way, and so she's able to link that back to the curriculum as well.
So also just a very simple construction, building a tower with boxes, which I'm sure happens in lots and lots of classrooms. So if we start looking at the links with the curriculum through that, we're looking at perhaps with maths, position and orientation, and measurement and estimating. And estimating at this level is so important for the children to actually take a risk and say what they think will happen if they build the tower too high. It hasn't got a firm enough base, so they've got to plan into the technology involved, giving the building a stable structure, trial and error, and testing their ideas out and their use of the materials as well, to find that some of the boxes might be too big or too small. So there's a whole range of science and technology and maths involved in just constructing a tower. Also, of course, with all these urges, we can link it easily to the English curriculum document, speaking and listening. And we really don't have to be too concerned to have oral language programs in our room if we're allowing this authentic play to happen, because the children are deep in conversations. They're rich conversations as well. Also going out to the sandpit, if we think about digging out in the sandpit and the sorts of things that are happening with the children, so just exploring the different properties of what happens with the sand and water, calculating if they're using water in the sandpit, the flow of the water, and how much they have to build the sand up to make dams or ponds or whatever they're doing in the sandpit, how they can construct things with the wet sand and how wet the sand has to be. All these things are physics and science, technology, all linked to the curriculum document. Also the maths, of course, with estimating and measuring and filling up with sand. It's another avenue for using capacity, and exploring and creating new ideas. So I'm hoping that some of those urges that are coming through, we can link them. And I think in the forest, I've never been involved so much with science and technology since I've been working with the children in the forest, because they just live and breathe it every day.
Dana's got a question here. How are you capturing this as evidence? Is it through your learning stories? Yes. One of the things that I'm supporting a teacher in is firstly observing, as Linda said, the urges. And I was saying to her today, you must have a notebook with you and a camera, and just take loads and loads of photos. And the notebook's there to perhaps document for yourself certain things that are happening during the day, but really to capture the language of the children as they are playing. If they're building that construction and you hear them say, no, we have to move that box, it's going to tip, it's not strong enough, those are your indicators that the thinking there is in that technological thinking, or that the idea of a structure and hey, we need a stronger base. So we try and capture that as a quote, and then that becomes the student voice in a learning story. So that then you can say, you said this when you were building your construction, and then you can say this links to or demonstrates you were thinking about or showing some knowledge of how structures need a good foundation. So you can make a very clear link to the technology area there. It shows that there's a level of reflection in your planning around building that structure.
We need to be shy about even photocopying some of the curriculum document out, the relevant parts that link to that activity that the children are engaged in, and post it into their books, so that when they go home, these books, parents can see that there's a direct link to the curriculum document and that you're covering all bases on the curriculum.
You can also do it as a whole class, and becomes a room, so that, you know, particularly if there's a really sort of concerted effort as a group of children where they've really worked hard on something together, that you can capture that through your photos, capture a couple of quotes, mention some students particularly that they thought this at this time and then that happened. You capture it all up as a big poster and then make your links to the curriculum, your links to urges, and so on, and it's a very valuable piece of evidence at that point for the whole class, with great student voice in it, and it's really kid speak, but there's an element of education for parents and for your colleagues that may come in and want to know what you're doing as well.
And I think the point about carrying a notebook around with you is very, very important. So is the camera, because however much you think you're going to remember those conversations, trust me, you won't, because you're so busy with other children and other interruptions. You have to hold on to that notebook all the time and just jot those things down.
And that notebook actually is your formative assessment as well, in the sense that it's more evidence, but it's a working document. So your learning stories are a narrative of what's been happening in your classroom, but if they want the raw data, you can wave the notebook and say, you know, I'm assessing all the time, I'm recording all the time what's happening. You marry that up with pictures, and yes, Dana, video is fantastic. I took some video the other day of some children through play because I wanted the teacher to see the chanting that was going on. The whole group of them working together, chanting teamwork, teamwork, and I couldn't capture that through a quote that gave it absolute value that it would through a video recording. So whatever technology you need to be able to capture the essence of the learning is really important.
And the mere fact that they were all chanting teamwork shows a very, very strong understanding with social science and the roles and responsibilities of being in a team. Just absolutely, those children have it. So it's really, really important. But I think if you're just starting out, and this is a new thing for you to be doing, you need to maybe focus just on a simple activity that the children are doing. You know, just something really simple like building a tower with boxes, and just make a note of it and jot some ideas down that you can see, and then go away and make those links to the curriculum document. And the more that you do or starting point.
Also, too, if you're not too sure about, put the video on, record 15-20 minutes of play activity in your room, and then take it away and sit and observe yourself without the pressure of having to look for something quickly. Take it home, sit down with a cup of tea, and just watch it, and sit there with your document and think, what can I see? And that's another way of just thinking, well, I'm going to start practicing this, but without the pressure of I've got to do it right here in the moment while the children in front of me. If you've got some video data, you might actually see things that you would miss through just a face-to-face observation.
I think what will come through with the children will be that there's a very heavy dominance, if you like, of the science area of the curriculum and the technology area, and I don't think we need to be too concerned that the social sciences we feel they're being left behind, because we have to remember that these are 5- and 6-year-olds, and if they can get that people work together collaboratively and know their roles and responsibilities in society, I think that's a huge thing. I think if you're working alongside children who are doing some activity where you can make links to other people and other cultures, that's great, because that's your scaffolding, that's gifting the knowledge to them. The other day we had the children built pallets. They had pallets, they built a huge they had to get each pallet up onto the next one. Now, as the rocket was growing taller, they found it harder to lift the pallets up. So this was a bit of real problem solving for them. And one of them said, I know if we get a rope and we tie it to the pallet on the ground and somebody gets on the top pallet, we can lift it up with the rope. So some children were at the bottom lifting, some were at the top pulling the rope. And I said to them, wow, look at you. You're building just like they did years and years ago in Egypt with the pyramids. And they took on board this. They really sort of linked themselves with it, if you like, doing it. A little bit of social science there. Knowledge. So you need to be ready for those moments where you can just drop in and spray them with a bit of knowledge and then step back again. Don't spend too long with them, because then you'll kill the play, obviously. So we have to really, I think, train ourselves on this, because it's quite new for a lot of people. And I think we need to start just doing it a little bit each day and getting more and more confidence growing with this activity.
I've just seen Sarah there. You've made a comment about having it be easier observing in a pair, and one's looking at the curriculum and making with links while the other's jotting down the specifics. Certainly one way to manage it. I'm working with a teacher in a single cell at the moment. She's got very limited support, so she's on her own, and she's looking in terms of how to free herself up to be able to do the observation. She said, I'm missing so much when I'm stuck with my groups, and it's something that we really advocate is you need the time to observe. Whether you've got the luxury of having another adult in the room to do it with you, or you're on your own. She's using her teacher aid strategically so that the teacher aid can run a second reading group so that it frees her up to rove. Whatever works so that you've got maximum amount of time to observe. But I can't stress enough, if you don't have that observation time, then the video is another best option, and it does take the pressure off. In the middle of the chaos of children playing, you're trying to find a link to a curriculum. Take the pressure off, put the video on, just record, and then look at it later when you've got that luxury to be able to think, because you will get interrupted so often with the children in the midst of their play. That thinking time is interrupted also. So but it's just a manageability thing.
I think too it's also important when children are involved in this way and you're recording is perhaps to go back and remind them too, and remember when you did this, you were able to solve that problem. And remember when we talked about that, we linked it with the people who built the pyramids, you know, so that children need to hear these things over and over, and they also need to know, to be reminded about what they've learned so that they can build on that knowledge. So that's part of the teacher's job as well, as part of the scaffolding, is to keep revisiting activities that they've done and revisiting that learning.
And also I think too it's important to use the language. I know for many of children who have come through a very traditional model, they won't equate play with academic learning. They won't see that floating containers in a water tray is capacity. So we can't be afraid to use that language with them and say, wow, you're floating these, you're you know, learning about capacity. Capacity is this thing that holds, you know, give them the language. And you need to see that learning all the time and not just on a worksheet or when the teacher tells us this is what, you know, you're going to do now and this is called maths. That will be the true essence of the curriculum document, because it's encouraging them to be lifelong learners rather than just we go to school and we learn, and when we finish school we've finished learning. So I think it's really important for them to see all those links through their play.
And especially with subjects too, like science and social sciences. You know, I don't think we talk enough about that, those with our 5 and 6 year olds. They need to understand that they are engaging in science activities, and that they are doing physics. You know, the children in the forest when they roll down the hill, and they're urged to rotate, but they're also engaging in physics because they're working out how far they are going to roll. They're estimating where they're going to land. They're estimating hill. Science, and they don't even know because they're having so much fun. Bombard them with it, but we need to use that language, and we say they'll start using the language as well.
So does that, we'll hand back to you, Tara, and see if that helps.
Yeah, and don't forget, if you've got questions, just type them up now, and then we can answer them. Yeah, you've given us a lot to think about. It's about you know, handing that power over to the children, isn't it? It's about letting them know that they are the learners, and that they are capable of learning just in whatever they're doing. And the more that you do that, the more that they show what they're capable of. I think that I've answered a few emails this on Facebook this week about the journey. You know, when you're starting off in play, that it takes the children time to relax and time to believe that they are in charge and that they can learn, and that sometimes you've got to remember that you're on a journey with them and not to take over from them, but it's that really nice coming alongside them. Yeah, I would like to, I could show you some of my planning, but I'm just going to try and figure out how I do that, so bear with me for a minute. I think it's, I'll try this. What does that do?
Just shows us a lot of screens, Tara. Can you perhaps go, there was a few options on share screen.
Yeah. Hangouts are your apps, entire screen, Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts would like you to share the content of your screen with hangouts.google.com. Choose what you'd like to share.
You can go down to your documents though. So if you scroll down there.
Oh, Microsoft Word. That's all I've got. Yeah, that's all I've got though. I've only got Microsoft Word.
So you just got documents.
What is that doing? No?
Just gone black.
Oh no, sorry. What's it doing?
Oh no, hang on. It might be starting. Something else just came up on screen.
What was it? That's kind of freaky, eh? Oh, it's still black. No?
No, that didn't work, no.
Okay. All right.
Can you go back?
Well,
Did you try entire screen or did you just try Hangout? Google Hangouts?
I tried the entire screen before. I think that's when it went all weird. See? That's weird, eh? What's it doing? It's not going to work.
Lots. No.
No. Okay, well, we will work on that for next time. Meg, not a question, but just a thank you for the time that you have given. The videoing kids at play idea is a great one. Eases the pressure on the observation need that I have as a single cell teacher. Yep, definitely, eh? I'm in a class by myself with another teacher aide, and this year, and I find I see a lot of things out of the side of my eyes as I'm teaching reading. I guess for me, the way I look at it this year is that I've spent a lot of time with this group of kids because I've got similar children to the ones that I had last year. I've got a few new ones, and I've given a lot of time to them last year, and I know that that the learning that while they're playing that they are learning, and although I'm not able to be there all the time to pick things up the way that I would like to, especially if I was team teaching, I know that they are still learning. And I remember talking to a kindergarten teacher, and they said the same thing. They said that because the children have learnt to play and feel confident at playing, you can rest assured that the time you spent one-on-one or in a small group with some other children, the rest of them are still learning. And at the very least, that's a really good thing to remember when you are in a class by yourself. Yeah. Any other questions?
Can we answer Dana's one, Tara?
Yep.
Just there's a comment there about guns and shooting and things. I think Linda's probably had a fair amount of experience with that, with the boys in the forest.
Yeah. Yes.
It's obviously a strong urge.
Trajectory, I think, is the urge.
Yeah, and I think you. I know as a female, it really annoys me, and but it's not going to go away. And I think you just need to redirect them to being able to still follow through with their urge, but maybe in a more meaningful way. So, so in the forest, we have a rule that we don't shoot each other. We don't shoot people from actually shooting. So I think you just need to maybe set up something where they can indulge in this. So maybe there are some targets you can erect around the place, and that they only shoot at targets and make it a bit of a game. I think that's what you did as well.
I've seen some great stuff around some number concepts where they've got to use Nerf guns or you know, the ones with the suction bullets to shoot their answers for maths. So it's a way of meeting the urge, which is the trajectory urge, But I think it's really important to remember that while you're running in a play-based environment, you still have rules. That's really important. Throwing things at each other. I had a principal say to me once, "Tell me how throwing rice at each other from the rice tray or the seed tray is play." And I said, "It's not. It's them throwing rice at each other. That's not play." So we need to be really clear that there are still rules around how you use the equipment, what it's used for, being considerate to others, and all of those key competencies, but recognising they've got an urge for trajectory. So how can we guide them in that so that they still meet that urge? And while it would be nice to say that particularly with trajectory, it would be completely authentically self-directed or student-directed, we have to balance that with working within a system around keeping each other safe and behaving appropriately in a school setting. So it's a tricky balance.
And it's also teaching respect, I think. And I think I can't, if you in the classroom, as I said, for the property in the classroom, respect for each other's, and I think that's where this comes. This is actually a teaching moment, isn't it?
So I hope that helps, Dana.
So another way of sharing the learning that we've been looking at this year is the Seesaw app. And I know some other people have been looking at that, but that allows the children to take photos and videos of their learning, and then you can post it up either, well, what we do sometimes is sit in our reflection time, which we try and do twice a day. We put it on the big screen TV, and we can see what they've been doing. We can see the learning, or we can see the some of the play, and we can then talk about what's happening and link it to our learning muscles, or link it to the type of learning they were doing. And then the potential is then to be able to post that up to the parents, and maybe just put in sometimes something very simple like the children were learning about shape and size today through building this model. So again, that's just another little way of being able to share what's happening in the learning with the whānau and the parents. Yeah, and learning stories is something that I try and use, but it's really hard to find the time for sure. And another, when I've worked out how to share my screen, I'll be able to show you some that I've been doing maybe next time. So yeah, any other questions about linking play to the New Zealand curriculum? Or maybe Kieran, you want to say something about it?
Sorry, I'm just coming back on. I agree that the key competencies are the heart of the matter here for me, and for those of you working in new entrant Year 1 spaces, the advisory group on early years education did point to Te Whāreke as being the preferred curriculum, particularly for children in their first year of school, which is a very important and interesting and quite challenging idea, and I know many of you are using Te Whāreke on some level. Te Whāreke talks about two major sets of outcomes. It talks about knowledge, skills and attitudes being closely linked, and that these ideas are very much related to identity for learners. The two ways that those knowledge, skills and attitudes combine are firstly as children's, well not firstly, but one of the ways is as learning dispositions, which are very much like key competencies. In fact, the key competencies are dispositions, so they're one and the same. They're slightly differently framed between the two documents, but they're parallels and complementary. The other way that those knowledge, skills and attitudes combine are as children's working theories about the world. And this notion of working theories derives from an idea by Guy Claxton, which is basically that, and it's a similar idea to schema, that basically my learning is a gradual process, is a kind of a development of a theory, and that through life I edit those theories through my experiences in the world. And it's working theories is an area I've done a lot of work in, and interface between dispositions or key competencies in children's thinking and context for learning. And so if you think about those dispositions and working theories, they're like two sides to the same coin, much like the key competencies and the learning areas are. Anyway, I think all I wanted to really say about that is that I think the working theories framework and the dispositional framework is an interesting one, and I encourage you to have a look at those ideas. They're very strong and sound for young children, and I think you've got to remind you of that, is that working theories about the world, how I think, develop my ideas, and connect and engage in the world, and then what helps me do that are those dispositions. So that's just something that I think I do encourage you to look up. I've done a lot of writing myself with Sally Peters, who's a big writer around transitions, and Margaret Carr. We've all written this work, and you can certainly, I can certainly send you some material that would be useful. So that was just my little 5 seconds.
I know that's good.
Thanks.
Thank you. That's awesome. You know, you have such good language to put to explain what's happening in the play. While you were talking, Kathy, a little thing from Facebook came up to say that they're just using Class Dojo Class Story, which I've watched a few Class Dojo clips, but I haven't used Class Story. So that sounds something that would be great to investigate and to have a look at. And then Sarah Greet, she's just written, great, I wondered about that today. The boys have been blogging on discovery sessions. I said no today because I wasn't sure if it married with the play philosophy. I think, too, it sounds like you're on the right track, Sarah, and if the kids, you know, if they're blogging about it, just think of all the learning that they are not only reflecting on what they've been doing, but they're using writing as a tool and reading as a tool in real life. And that's really what we want, isn't it? We want all the learning, all the children's learning to be real life. We want it to be connected in a way that they understand. Instead of a teacher, if you'd got up there and said to them, today you're going to write about what you were doing at morning tea, they may not have been all that keen, but because it's their idea and it's their play, that passion, that's perfect. And the other thing I think I want to say about, I wasn't sure if it was married with play philosophy, is I think we have to be kind to ourselves as teachers and realise that it's okay to experiment. It's okay to because there's been many times that I've thought, oh, I'm not sure how this is going to go. But if you don't try and give the children room to breathe and to explore, then we'll never find out. And I think that that's the making of a really good teacher, when you're able to take risks. And there's no right or wrong in this philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
You want to say something?
Sorry. Yeah, just on that, how did you know? We just wanted to talk about the difference between children who are what's the word? They're wanting to blog themselves versus blogging as a result of the end of discovery. So we've seen created the most amazing structure and there's been a lot of time and thought into it, and then they've been required by the teacher to go away and write down everything that they've done. And that in itself is going to turn the child off if they know after every session I have to go and write about this. The difference between that and a child who wants to do it, who initiates it themselves and is motivated to do it, is quite different. Intrinsic motivation around their learning, and that's certainly what we want to encourage. But we don't want to direct kids to an undesired task as a result of something that they've done so fantastically. It will kill the play spirit in them.
In fact, I've been witness to the practice of deliberately having discovery time set at a time of the day when there was the opportunity for the teacher to say, we're going straight into writing after discovery time, and you're going to use discovery time to write your stories. And going one step further, which I was horrified, was that when the story wasn't finished, they were kept in to finish their piece of writing. And I think that's really, really sad to have children do that. And as Sarah said, it just kills all that authentic play, all that discovering for children.
Because they quickly link it to something that's not so pleasant. So absolutely, if they're asking to write, don't stop them. No way. Yes, quickly find paper or blog or whatever, but don't use discovery into writing as a result. It's quite a different process. So that's all.
So, Sarah, I've been really enjoying using your planning format. I think if you haven't been to the workshop Play in the Classroom, it's really worth trying to catch one. But that planning format that you suggested, I've adapted to my own school, and I use that every couple of weeks as a backdrop to recording. And recording sort of like the theme that the kids are involved in at the moment, and being able to write from the New Zealand curriculum the goals from that into it, and also Te Whāriki, and I found it really, really useful. So yeah.
That's great to hear, and it's something that we're continuing to work with teachers around documenting that play, both as a retrospective approach, but also that anticipation, I think, is really important too.
And I like the way you said, Tara, that you've adapted it, because that's how we envisaged teachers taking it on board, is using it for their classroom in the way that they specifically want it. So that's great.
Dana, iPads. I'll just turn the video on so you can see us. iPads are a tool. I would imagine once upon a time the Encyclopedia Britannica would have been a tool. We certainly see that they have a place in the sense of scaffolding new knowledge, but if you were to put a child on that's using an app, which is a different set of skills. I think if you're wanting child-directed play, in terms of certainly the philosophy we advocate, I think iPads have a place in terms of their technological use around recording or documenting evidence, and as well as knowing where to go to look for information that you need to further the task that you're involved with at the time. But I think when you using apps and things that maybe don't encourage that level of social interaction or oral communication, problem solving, those sorts of things, then it's going to shut down the play. I know that there are examples of some apps that encourage that social play, but I think that they're still a minority, and I don't think that it is a good substitute for real, authentic social play in groups without that there. So
Yeah, the way that I use our iPads, we have
Time for it in the forest.
hey. We have 5 iPads, and they're just in the classroom like another tool. And what I've been surprised at is that the children haven't spent large amounts of time on them. Of course, we have a selected amount of apps on them, but one of the apps, one of the reasonings behind what I chose to do was put reading eggs on, because I realised that I would rather spend more time in the play with the children than teaching the skills of reading. And so one of my theories was, if reading eggs was there, they could go away if they wanted to work on those specific skills. And it's worked for some children. It hasn't worked for all of them. Some of them won't go on it. But there's some children that have actually taught themselves to read by using that, and they might go on I don't know, half an hour a day. They might go on for a couple of days. But the interesting thing is that nobody actually gets stuck on them, because I think that they love play so much. Like when they see a dramatic play thing happening in the classroom, they'll put them down and they'll go and join in, or they will go and choose to do something else. So I've been really amazed at that they've been able to self-regulate. There's only been one child who hasn't, and he needed some help. And I think mainly that's because of the type of apps that are on there.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's only got a limited function, whereas through authentic child-centered or student-directed play, it's infinite in terms of where it can go, and that's the difference.
But I think if we're being true to our philosophy, then we have to make all these things available for children to choose for themselves what they would like to do. It's not our role to take things away and say, no, you can't have these things, or you have to be on them for a certain amount of time. They have to be exposed to them, and as you say, Tara, they will self-regulate, and we have to have faith in our children that they'll do that.
Yeah, I think that's the scariest thing as a teacher, from the old stand up the front kind of model to this new play-based model, is that handing over of trust to the children, and it takes a while to get used to that. But the more that I've done it, I'm less stressed. The kids are less stressed. There's more learning going on. There's more authentic learning, and it's exciting. Every day is exciting, and every day we discover something, and it's fun. And life should be fun when you're 5 and 6. It should be fun when you're older as well. But I think that you can't. It's that magic that you discover in the classroom, and like I know all of you that are listening, you know what I'm talking about, and you go, yes, now I know why I'm doing this, because you just get so excited about watching them learn and invent and find new ways of doing things. It's just so amazing.
And I think you just learn so many different things about the children that you wouldn't have learned before, perhaps, under the old model. And the best thing is too that they see how excited you are. So the magic really happens, doesn't it, between you and the children? And I think in lots of ways you actually grow closer to them because of that.
And isn't that the essence of our curriculum? The joy of learning, those values and the vision of the New Zealand curriculum is having that desire to learn and desire to connect with the world and have joy through learning. To me, that's what our very good curriculum document wants for our learners, and that's what we're enabling them to do.
Here's something from Sarah. We use ours for creation, not consumption. The children are free to create artifacts that show their learning. A lot of the time the children work collaboratively to create these. As I move more into play, it will be interesting to see whether this changes. That's fabulous, Sarah.
Just just on that, one of the things that we promote, and I think this ties in with what Kieran's talking about around learning dispositions and working theories, is that whole process versus product. So yes, while there are certainly opportunities to have a creation and looking at artifacts and things around learning, it's around actually getting children to see the value in the process that it took to get them there rather than the final outcome. And that's one of the key components of a play-based approach, and that idea around constructing your knowledge as a learner. So I think that it's important to remember we can't focus just on the creation. I saw an example the other day, children at a making table, and they were busy gluing away and making these wonderful things, and they were so focused on the end product that when they were done, they didn't know what to do next, and it wasn't a rich level to know how to take that idea and link it to a richer level of play where some of those really high order thinking skills can come into effect. So that's just something to be mindful of, is to not fall into that trap of seeing play as creating, but once they've created, what will they do with it, and how will they use that creation in their play to access and
So if you have we lost you there at the
I think the hardest thing with that idea is see the proof that there is learning, that learning has happened, and when the children take something home with them, then they can see that they've done something at school. So I think we need to do a lot of parent education around it's okay to work on the process and not necessarily come home with this beautiful piece of work that's finished and looks wonderful.
And that's where the language comes back in again, and children being able to articulate the language of their learning, which goes back to learning dispositions and some of the key competencies and them being able to identify themselves as learners.
That's what I was just going to say, is that's what I love about our learning muscles, is that you know, the children say, I'm being curious, or I'm investigating something, and so they don't do that straight away. They don't have that language straight away, but eventually they start to use it, so they can then tell you what they're learning, what muscles in their learning are they developing, and they will need those muscles as they go into their jobs and into employment. Those are the very things that employers want: curiosity, investigation, sociability. We talk a lot about sociability, about being able to share and collaborate together, and what we talk about it from their play, and I think giving children they're in the examples, they are the examples, and then putting the language in there is so very powerful. It's a powerful foundation for learning. Okay, well, it's 8 o'clock. We said we'd finish now. I'm really intrigued to know how you found Google Hangouts. If you found it was as good as the webinar that we were doing last time, maybe I'll just start up a thread on the Facebook page and you can give us all some feedback on that. I'd like to thank Linda and Sarah especially for coming and joining us this week, and it was really it was fantastic to hear again how to link the New Zealand curriculum in with the play, and it has given us all something to think about, and confidence that what we're seeing in the classroom is learning. And yeah, thank you very much, and Kieran, thank you too for joining us again. And yeah, we'll see you all back in a month's time. I'm going to try and learn how to share my screen. I'd really like, I think the next one that we do might be on planning, and we can be able to share some planning together. Any final comments? No? Any other questions? Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Kate, thank you for your yes. Okay. We'll see you all later. Bye.